Welcome to Akhand Vidyashram, the first institute of impeccable wisdom. Let's discuss about the perfect integrated human brain, the most evolved instrument of the universal consciousness. I really mean it. And this is the core human nervous system and all related things we are going to understand. Let me start once again. The prime objective of human life is a perfect physical health, free from physical diseases, perfect emotional stability, material wealth and prosperity, right education and knowledge, abundance of impeccable wisdom, genuine respect for the world religions, a genuine commitment to social health, spiritual evolution and enlightenment, an eternal, blissful, comfortable living life for everyone in the world is the prime objective of Akhand Vidyashram. The reasons for our failure to even achieve all these objectives, even to attain a disease-free life, there are many reasons. The first reason which comes to my mind is our ignorance and inertia. The lack of right knowledge is the problem of the world. Definition knowledge of the subject is another issue to be concerned about. Wrong human anatomy, physiology, confusing knowledge of biochemistry, lack of human psychology knowledge, no wisdom of the divine design of nature. We do not recognize even the impeccable wisdom. Because of these things, the entire world is fighting with each other, focusing on money and perishable items and living like not perfect human beings as such. If we want to be a perfect human being in tune with universal consciousness, we need to have all these things. And for that, understanding human brain is perfect because the most evolved thing in the entire universe. Now, let's make it very clear. There are three different types of human bodies by and large. One is called ectomorph, another is mesomorph, third is endomorph. They are ectomorph is one for nervous system, skin and eyes. Mesomorph is the muscles and bones, etc. And endomorph is internal organs. These are the three different components which make the human body as such. I'm not going to say which is better, but I know one thing. The ectomorph is a person which stands out in this concept because it centers on nervous system, primarily skin as well as eyes. Now there comes to question of there are 10 organ system in the body I have already spoken about, and to bring those things into mind is the first system which comes to mind is a skeletal system made of 126 bones which shield and protect the movement. Muscular system, skeletal muscle, smooth muscles and cardiac muscle, they are again three muscles. The skin and excretory function for elimination of the waste products. Digestive system for supply of water, nutrient, electrolytes for homeostasis for every perfect body. Respiratory system for oxygen input and expulsion of carbon dioxide to maintain internal gas atmosphere. Endocrine system supply essential hormones for all the vital functions of the body, including homeostasis. Blood immune system carry vital organs of the body. Cardiovascular system, effective transport system, reproductive systems, procreation, survival of the human race, and particularly talk of the perfect female menstrual cycle for the first time in the history of mankind. And of course, the nervous system, which controls everything in totality, and a very effective networking system, is the best computer CPU in the universe. Is capable of doing something which no other instrument in the entire universe can do. Nature has created things, but to understand divine design in nature is only human brain is capable of doing it, and that is the objective of this particular video. How we can be in tune with universal consciousness and make optimum use, and become a perfect walking, talking encyclopedia, knowing everything about the entire universe and protecting it from all the difficulties by and large. Now, the first thing which comes to my mind to understand the perfect human anatomy. In this particular component which resembles my body, as I told you, the was decision before birth, after 2 trimesters, to get the Atma into the body is to redesign the DNA molecules to make a perfect human. This particular is a representation of my body. 174 centimeter height divided into 2 components. If it is divided into 2 components from head to the navel, it is 38.1966%, and navel right up to soul is 61.8, that is Divyank ratio. But on the other side, from top to soles, it divided into 4 components of 25. Head to heart 25%, heart to the tailbone 25%, tailbone to the knee 25%, and knee to the soles another 25%. This is the ratio. If we are ideally designed according to Divyank by and large. Second thing, there are 3 muscles in the body which are important: the skeletal muscles, smooth muscles, and cardiac muscles. Skeletal muscles are to provide things for homeostasis from the outside and cooking, smooth muscles for digestion, absorption, otherwise, and cardiac muscles distribute. You can read it literally. These are the 3 things which are very important by and large. Second, the 10th stage of development of muscular junction is also something which I want people to understand. That everything centers around 10th stage of development only. And here you have neuron cells with abundance of acetyl coenzyme from mitochondria. Then choline is added to make it acetylcholine. And then calciums are absorbed from the intestine through the calcium channels. Acetylcholine is released into the cleft. Acetylcholine acts on the nicotine acetylcholine receptors, enter through open sodium channels, produces excitatory postsynaptic potential, leads to muscular contraction, and acetylcholinesterase enzyme dissolve acetylcholine into acetic acid and choline. Choline is reabsorbed for use, and that is a beautiful 10-step parts of the neuromuscular junction. Now come to the question of teeth. By and large, there are 2 types of teeth: deciduous childhood teeth, which are 20 in number, and adult are 32 in number. That ratio is according to Divyank. And also roots are 1, 1, 2, and 3 as such according to Divyank ratio. And smile also is based on Divyank. You can read in detail. These are the things which again center on Divyank only. Now come to the digestive system. With the continuous supply of water, nutrient, electrolytes, and other things. Is this not only the ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, and defecation alone? And this structure is beautifully designed. From mouth to this is a peristaltic movement. You can read it leisurely as such. Then second thing, respiration is absorption of oxygen for the atmosphere with Divyank ratio and expulsion of 61.8034% of carbon dioxide only. The whole system centers on Divyank ratio only. Then comes to the cardiovascular system. Every system is based on Divyank only, nothing other than that. And then excretory system will eliminate all the waste products, and the ratio of kidneys is also according to Divyank ratio, and amount of urine which is expelled out and particular pH is also according to Divyank. You can read that at leisure otherwise. Now, endocrine systems are also made of 10 endocrine systems. Start from pineal gland, hypothalamus, anterior pituitary, posterior pituitary, thyroid, parathyroid, thymus, pancreas, adrenal gland, and adrenal, then testes and ovaries, which are organs of reproductive system. There are 10 only. Now come to the question. We are going to talk about certain misconceptions about nervous system which I want the world to know. Okay, unfortunately, the neuroscientists of the world, the teachers of the sciences around the world are not aware of many things about the brain. As a result, they have not been able to make optimum use of. First misconception comes to me when it comes to the question of teaching neuroscience to the student. The neurosystem is the most difficult thing is taught by everybody. But my understanding is most vital, important, easy and simple is nervous system only. Because it's designed with the perfect design literature, it follows the fundamental Divyank. It can make us recognize even universal concept effectively. It is not at all difficult. Why it's not difficult, how to understand it, I'm going to talk to you as we proceed one by one. Then now I'm going to talk about the system, nervous system as such, and this is also something designed on my understanding, including everything which I want every student to understand. It is not something which is taught in any other book in the world. There's a first misconception I'm going to talk about. First thing which stands to my knowledge, if you go on top, left side, third line, is the sensory afferent division which brings all the sense perception from the external world. That is the entry of indriya, the knowledge, which is most important. And this should always be effectively normal, perfect. If this system is clear, you will be perfectly healthy, wealthy, wise, and happy. And for that, my advice is become pure vegetarian. Do not drink, do not smoke, do not take tranquilizers, do not take anything which can reduce the sensitivity of the nervous system. That's my advice to everyone. If you want to be healthy, wealthy, and wise, do not take anything which will reduce the sensitivity of nervous system, because what is wrong, you should immediately know the cause. Only then you can find a treatment. And that can be done by a pure vegetarian, non-alcoholic, not drug taker, no tranquilizers, no painkillers, nothing at all which reduces the sensitivity of sensory system at all or motor system at all. So that's my first advice, is the first entry point. Then that information in the sensory indriya is carried to the peripheral nervous system, sensory component to the brain. So this is the third step, is the brain, which is the cognizer, integrator or the control center. This intact should be perfectly known. We are going to talk about it as we go. And then when come to the central nervous system, which include the brain and the spinal cord, it has the capacity to analyze things perfectly. The neurons in the brain should analyze what is what and what action to be taken, what to be given to the motor system to execute. The fourth step which comes to the play is the peripheral nervous system of the motor component, and fifth will be the motor nerves as such. And here I am talking about all the tracts inside the nervous system are called tracts, and in peripheral nervous system they are called nerves. So both tracts and nerves of motor component should be fully known, which is all the fifth, sixth level of this. And then when come to the motor component, it's made of two components. One is voluntary motor component, another is involuntary motor component. Voluntary is a conscious as such, the decision which we take to execute. And there is fibers start from the central nervous system to the skeletal muscles. Now it's coming very clear. This is with skeletal muscles which we can put under action. That is one component. Second component, involuntary autonomic nervous system, that has the visceral organs and glands to be taken into control. This is involuntary, we have no control over it. Then involuntary autonomic nervous system is further divided into sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. It's almost like a ninth level of consciousness. Sympathetic system and parasympathetic. Parasympathetic system is designed in such a way that it can create, conserve energy. It is slow in action, conserve action, and centralized. You have more energy. But when you need energy to be used, it is the sympathetic system. So all your Kundalini syndrome, all energy mobilization to fight or flight is connected with sympathetic nervous system. Now, as far as parasympathetic system is concerned, it is made of two components. Sacral parasympathetic, which is the reproductive organ, the expulsion part, and the cranial parasympathetic, the higher system in the brain. This is very, very important. One, these two are things which make parasympathetic, whereas the sympathetic activity. But these both systems are further divided into pacemakers of three kinds, which no book in the world ever talks about it. That is the 10th level of nervous system, which is the most important as the local panchayat government in the physical body itself. There are three pacemakers by and large. One is connected with the heart, second with the uterus, third with the digestive system. Heart digestive system is important because we need water ingredients for homeostasis. Heart is required to distribute things to the whole body, and uterus is to protect the next generation at all. There are three most important parts for which three systems play a role, and those are being given independent thing. Even the central system fails, this system will continue to work independently. That's why they're pacemakers, they can function independently. This is something which has never been written or spoken in any other classification, in any of the books in the world. That is the reason I've been saying Akhand Vidyashram stands for the knowledge, which is impeccable wisdom, which is, should be taught to every child from school, college to the university as such. We should not restrict the knowledge at any stage from anything. That is also one of the reasons over a period I have come to make long videos which contain all the information in detail, people to realize that we have to have this knowledge from every young child of 8 years onward. Once they start understanding, they should see my videos and remember the knowledge and build on it for the rest of their life. Every person is genius provided they provided the right information in young age itself. We don't have to grow older to understand. After 5 years, we can start learning. By 8 years, we can start mastering these things from my videos alone. I can tell you by the time you are 10, and when you go to start school, you will have impeccable wisdom to build, and you'll write your own books for your own self, for the world as and large. That is the day I'm looking for, that every child in the world is equally enlightened. Now, the second misconception is unexplored nervous system, which I told you about, the pacemakers of the heart muscles, metric system, and nervous system. We are going to talk about these three components clearly at this particular juncture. The first thing, cardiovascular system has got pacemakers and 10 stages of conducting nervous system. These 10 stages are independent, are connected with sympathetic and parasympathetic and autonomic nervous system, but they're independent also. And this is required if the central thing fails. Heart will start keep functioning. If it is SN node, then instead of 72 temperature, the heart rate, it will become 100. If AV node, it will be 61.8. Bundle of his 38.2, and goes on. Then you come to the ventricle stage of maybe 25, and that would still persist and save us come what may be. Even the central nervous way, heart can still. That is one of the reasons why heart can be cut from the body and carried to another place for transplant itself. It can survive in saline water itself. That means it has an independent nervous system of its own. It will keep functioning by and large. That is most beautiful design of the nature in 10 stages conducting system of the heart. Now they comes to the digestive system also has a pacemaker in the stomach which will produce peristaltic movement independent of that. And that is controlled by meningic nervous system which is there between two muscles. And these are nerves which are closely connected with sympathetic and parasympathetic and others to make sure digestion goes on even when you are deep asleep. And that's where the Kundalini comes to play a role. After food, it can independently function from here, and rest of the brain can go to sleep. This will independently work. That is the most important second part of 10th stage of nervous system. Now come to the third of the part, autonomic control of the uterus, because uterus has to make sure that it should be delivered. As I told you in the last thing, Ayatri Upanishad, last like a Turiya stage, it is delivery is important. First trimester, 11 weeks. Second trimester, 11 weeks. Third trimester, 11 weeks. And the last one is important for delivery. This is Turiya stage, and that can take place independently of the other nervous system. As the child comes down, impulse is created, goes to the brain, and brain produces oxytocin. Oxytocin comes down and contracts the uterus head and pushes the thing, and the cycle goes on till the child is delivered completely. This is independent thing. It is based on endocrine nervous system alone. Nerve is on 10th stage is required, and hormones put together to make sure delivery is done. That is most beautiful part of the human being and other animals too. So this is also part of the 10th stage of nervous system, which I want people to understand. It is should be understood in the beginning itself, and that's it. Now to come to the question of coming to the sensory nerves. As I told you, there are 100 billion neuron cells in the human body. They are structural and functional units. All are important. And what is most important is each neuron cell can make 20,000 memory synapses. Can you imagine 100 billion neuron cells multiplied by 20,000 memory synapses? Can you imagine the amount of power of the brain we have? In the central brain I'm talking about is phenomenal. But I'm also understand almost all except a few people use hardly 1 to 2% of the potential. And it is also said Einstein used 11% of the potential, became the greatest scientist of the world, became a Nobel laureate, recognized as the greatest scientist even today. But let me admit with all the humility that I am trying to understand all the 64 arts and make optimum use of the brain to the 100% and become a walking, talking encyclopedia. And that is what is possible for every human being, provided we are hardworking, not lazy, we are understanding wisdom, impeccable wisdom, and have the perfect knowledge in every aspect of the brain and nervous system. We can achieve it. That is my image to the world. I have done it and I'm doing it. Divyank is result of that. I can produce 8 hertz frequency throughout the brain with eyes open, which nobody has done it. Divyank, nobody has done it. These knowledge are not given because you have not even started thinking about perfect things. And everything is unliving. That is what I am trying to explain. Now take the neuron cells. Also is made of 10 parts, as you can see. The first part is dendrite, which are receptors. Then you have cell membrane. Then you have cell body. Then you have a nucleus. Then you have axon. Then you have node of anywhere. You have Schwann cell, myelin sheath, axon terminal, and synaptic end bulb. These are the thing. Receptor to transmitter is what makes human nervous system fantastic. Is a perfect to the core, designed again on Divyank alone. Now the comes to the reflex arch, and again is made of 3 parts. Skin is a receptor. Nerves come to the sensory component, as I told you in the beginning, and they go to the spinal ganglion. I'm talking about this is in spinal cord. And grassroots, the posterior side is what information is carried to the posterior side. Now to make you understand nervous system easy, first take sensory system, which is on the posterior component. Spinal cord, posterior part is sensory, and the rastral root ganglion, the component is there on the posterior side only. Nervous systems, spinal cord as well as brain is a sensory component. Then interneuron, which analyze things, and they gave the information to the anterior horn cells to bring afferent system by and large. So then you have 3 components: sensory component, interneuron, and motor component. But within the brain itself, you have another thing called autonomic nervous system, which is the lateral cells. Posterior is sensory, anterior is voluntary, and lateral horn cells are autonomic are sympathetic and parasympathetic in nature. This trinity, this is the concept which you understand, then you know the posterior part of the spinal cord, posterior part of the brain will be sensory, and anterior will be motor, in between will have autonomic nervous system. So this is understood, then you'll find the tract coming down, from up down or come down to up are very easy. Ascending will be on the posterior side, descending will be on the anterior side. That's it. There is no confusion. But once you keep confusing, you'll have a problem. I'm trying to simplify step by step with the pictures, which is absolutely easy. Now there comes the third misconception. Nerve action potential, as it is a defective repolarization process, role of sodium potassium AT pump, and genuine hyperpolarization process, and executing resting membrane potential. These are the concepts with nerves alone. This is again something which I want people to understand. What are the information the neuroscientists of the world have given? They haven't even thought about it. What is right, what is wrong? We are now going to explain to you what they talk and what is wrong and what should be done. Now come to the question of action potential in nerve. Now in this particular picture, you can see the nerve resting membrane potential is minus 70 millivolts. As you can see on the left side, right at the bottom line, 0.70. Then you put a stimulus, and when you put a stimulus, there are two types of responses. One is a slow sodium impulse, which is like a local government. You can see in the 10th part of nervous system, in myastic system, or for that matter, pacemakers. But in action potential muscles, stimulus should be strong enough to bring sodium right up to minus 55 millivolts, and that is called threshold stimulus. That small curve is again according to Divyank. But once you come to the minus 55 millivolt from minus 70, then sodium enters through gated channels, and it will go on increasing the potential, come to zero, then it can go up to plus 35 millivolts only, not less, not more. But that is the end. No more sodium can go, because sodium come to the saturation point, and more sodium cannot enter. That sodium channels close there at plus 35. This is perfect number according to Divyank. Then sodium cannot get, sodium channels close. At that stage, potassium channels open up and potassium starts coming out. The first thing, what depolarization? Now starts repolarization as such. When potassium comes out, as a result it's coming down. But stage come, there is a limit to the extent potassium can come out. Sodium is still there. And that is the time sodium potassium AT pump comes to play a role, and potassium goes in and sodium comes out. And that is the stage which scientists say 3 sodiums come out and 2 potassium go in. And according to Divyank, it should be potassium should be 21 and sodium 35 would make the ratio according to Brahma 22 by 21 in polarity itself. Then you may or may not need ATP at all. But that is a divine thing, is this. But when almost all the sodium comes out and potassium goes in, but that is the stage lead to hyperpolarization. Now your resting membrane potential or whatever potential is less than 70. It could be 75 minus or something. And that is hyper. But that is a stage when sodium enters into again to bring it down to minus 70. And that is the resting membrane potential again, which we started with. So, but these are the processes which are not spoken in any of the book which I am talking about. If this is understood in clarity, looking at my other videos in detail, I can assure you we are moving on higher and higher in the process. And maybe over a period, each one of these in much more detail, I'm going to talk about at a later with much more modified. But this is an example for you to remember. This is a point to be thought about it. Information is already in earlier. We will make it even better as we move on. Now the fourth misconception is Nernst equation. The log of 61 was used and the value should be minus 61.8034, not minus 61. So I have added my 0.8034. This is according to Divyank. Then equilibrium potential weaker. But now the question comes up, why was log of 61 used? Nobody has given information at all. And that is again something we say. When you talk of this mathematical design, you should also know what do they stand for. And without that, there is no use at all. Now I am making it very clear. The water content in the body is 61.8034% in the earth, human body, and the human cells. This is because of water, because it's a solution which helps in calculating the particular process. And that's it. Rise, you can see on top. Equilibrium is 61. This is the formula which is used. And that is based on sodium potassium pump and also the water as such. That's it. Now I'm showing another thing. Science has also recognized that 61 is not perfectly. They have changed it to 61.54. They have also thought 61 is not giving, so increase to 60. But I know if you increase it to 61.8034, you'll have a much better equilibrium potential, is very clear. Then both are ionic stage. As I told you, ions inside and ions outside. The solutions ions are only in water. What water plays them, and that is what is 61.8034. And this is the kind of knowledge that I want the scientists also to work on. They haven't applied. They're trying to copy things based on what is, just trying to rectify, but they haven't gone to perfection. If they want to go to perfection, they should come to Divyank and say 61.8034% is the perfect one. I'm sure they do the science with that. I'm sure we can have perfectly fantastic equilibrium potential thereof. Then comes the fifth misconception. It is said there are 8 lobes in the human brain, and I'm very clear there should be 10 lobes. And insular cortex lobes have been ignored. Left and right insular cortex has not been considered as lobes at all. If they had considered, they would have known there are 10 lobes, not 8 lobes. 2 motor, 2 parietal, 2 central, 2 occipital, 2 temporal is the 2. So insular cortex has been missed, and why they have missed, I have no idea. Since I'm talking about the books, this is missing. This is again fifth misconception. Now to prove why this is important. To give that example, I give the example of spinal cord. Cervical level has no lateral horns, but thoracic system from which sympathetic system arises, T1 to L2, has a lateral horn cells from which sympathetic preganglion fibers arise. Autonomic nervous system arises from that, and that is the central part which I shown earlier here. And same thing is the insular cortex in the brain as such. Then go to sacrum. S2, S3 and S4 have got lateral horn cells from this sacrum parasympathetic system arises. So if it is in the spinal cord, why did not they see replication of that in the brain itself? Insular cortex in the brain in the center is representing the lateral horn cells of sympathetic and parasympathetic system as such. That means they haven't really looked at it. They're just going to copycat thing. Okay, this is given. We will try to improve better. That does not serve the purpose to teach intelligent students. And I'm very glad we have two kinds of students. One, copycats. They don't ask questions. 99% is like that. But 1% of student, from my experience, I've seen who ask very interesting questions. And no book is able to give them answer. No Google is able to give an answer. No artificial intelligence is given because again, man-made defective models only. I'm trying to fill up that gap as a person who can explain this answer to the 1% of students who wants impeccable wisdom perfectly. And this is tough. But now, this is for all the 100%, because anyway 99% is already copycat. So they can also take it and go. There's no problem. But 1% will benefit more, and 99% will also benefit. So all the 100% can benefit from that knowledge because there's no deficiency thereof. Now there comes the question of nervous system. As I told you, inputs are making a sense. That is how simple it is. Posterior sensor component, input data is the back side. Central evaluation is recognition. Central autonomy is subconscious. Endocrines are unconscious. Anterior is motor component. These are the 5 components which are very important to understand nervous system very, very clearly. Now there comes to the question of the most evolved human brain is something which I am again going to criticize neuroscientists of the world. I am very, very sorry to say neuroscientists of the world have gone on record to say that 3 outer layers of neocortex, what is their function, they have absolutely no idea at all. What kind of science is there? They know the three layers of neurocortex outside are there. Anatomy they know, but physiology they do not know. Function they do not know. Psychology they do not know. So what's the big idea? So that is the deficiency which I'm talking about. They are the one which are receptive to the universal consciousness. Now I'm going to talk about it. There are 2 types of brains functions as far as sensory component is concerned. Right in the spinal cord and the brain stem. Gray matter, or which is interacts evaluating system, is inside the brain. But when for the brain to understand the external world completely, the antenna is outside. And this is the antenna which outside can make us perceive the universal consciousness better. And that's why we are the most evolved human brain in the universe. Anyone who can activate, integrate these 3 outer layers throughout the brain, you become a super intelligent genius by and large. Entire world of universe is at your side. I'm glad I'm the only person who has done it and shown it. The result is I'm in tune with Akash Kosh. I know the divine design. I internalize the whole thing, and as a result, I can produce 8 hertz alpha frequency throughout the brain with eyes open, ears open, everything closed, not with a closure. That's it. Now I'm going to talk about the 7 layers of human cortex. Again, if you look at my picture of Akhand, on top there is lotus petal and has got only 7 petals. And these are 7 petals which I'm talking about. These are neurocortex layers. The first molecular layer, external granular layer, external pyramidal layer. These are 3 which I'm talking about. Nobody knows the function except Shiv Bhushan Sharma. In Shiv Bhushan Sharma is active. As a result, I am getting information which is there in Akash Kosh directly. So become walking talking encyclopedia of the universal consciousness. I don't have to base my time on Google, books or artificial intelligence to get my information. My information comes from Akash Kosh, which is the sum of everything because the 3 layers are fully activated. But 4th layer internal pyramidal, multiform and wide. These 4 layers are used by every other human being, both for the sensory component and the motor component. Sensory information goes to the 4th layer and motor is done from there only. So up to 4th layer, all of the human beings do it. But first, second, third, which make us a super intelligent, Turiya consciousness to the universal, impeccable wisdom is not used. That's a point which I'm making very, very clear. I have done it and I can show you this is activated. You will produce 8 hertz frequency throughout the brain with eyes open and ears open as such. Now the comes to the impeccable wisdom. Most evolved brain, integrated enlightened brain, it activates the 3 outer layers, produces a predominant coherent alpha frequency. We can be in tune with Schumann resonance field, and Schumann resonance field have 3 components: 7.83, 14 and 20. And 7.83 or 8 is the ideal situation to understand human body and human nature by and large. And that is what Akash Kosh is. It stores the information of past, present, and future events which the universe has recorded. Whatever happened is recorded there as an iCloud only. If we can make iCloud, Divine also knows how. They are the far ahead of us. We are only copying cat. That is the impeccable wisdom. Then come to the sixth misconception. As I told you, all of neuroscientists say when you take electroencephalogram and do a power spectrum analysis, you point 10.5 alpha frequency from occipital region to some extent parietal region. Rest of the brain does not show alpha, and this is also possible with the closed eyes and mind at rest. The mind is calculating, it is beta. Eyes are open, it is beta. No alpha seen is remaining part, is this neuroscientists of the world say. But I am able to produce 8 hertz through the brain with eyes open. I am showing the whole world that your knowledge is so deficient, and if I can single-handedly do it and you are not able to do it, so you have to give the kind of knowledge which I am talking about. And that is the sixth misconception which I am talking about. World needs to understand this is required us to go on to the next stage of universal consciousness and become a perfect human being, low pollen, which I talked with the last concept. We are capable of being better than the divinity per se. All the gods in essence are atom, element, molecule, cells, and otherwise. But real divinity in the universe is human being. We are capable of understanding Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Upanishad, everything, provided we are enlightened as such. We are highly educated, enlightened, empowered. For them, there are no mysteries at all. And that is what I am trying to prove. With the help of Akhand Yoga's 10 steps, I have reached a level which is talking about 8 hertz throughout the brain with eyes open. So I am countering this. Even neuroscientists here have faith. Now, result of this particular studies from 93 to 95, I'm going to show down my EEG in 1993 right at the bottom and the left side. You can see frequency, closed eyes, low amplitude, very little. You open the eye, you do not see alpha at all. It is all beta. This is my. Same thing in 95, in 2 years, with the help of Akhand Yoga by and large, I am able to produce alpha also after. But of course, the amplitude and power is not as much with the eyes closed. But they are appearing. That was a turning point in 1995. And that is what made me to convert that into power spectrum analysis to understand qualitative and quantitative analysis, which was done for the first time in the history of mankind in neurosciences. Then somebody used Akhand Yoga or Kundalini Yoga and did power spectrum of the EEG to convert all the things into that. But today I am happy. It is available in hospitals, power spectrum analysis through MATLAB analysis. We can do wonders by and large. Now, for my PhD work right up to 2001, I have shown it very clearly. This is the EEG with closed eyes, both in my case and the control subject is identical. Only difference is power in my case is almost double the size of the power found in the control other normal subject. But otherwise, looks wise, they are identical. But the second picture is thing with eyes open. In eyes open control, you can see it is the beta which has increased, alpha is down. But in my case, you can see alpha is very high, beta is little. Theta, delta, and beta are less, alpha is high. And that is the frequency around 8 hertz have come up. But when concentration is in the brain, power of samadhi is much more, then the concentration is not there in our concentration in lower chakra or Muladhara. Samadhi, Sahasrara chakra, power is the highest. And that is the difference because of power spectrum. For my PhD work itself, no wonder it was called unique unusual, perfect, and mind-breaking, and was highly commendable work by and large. That was the result of my PhD work in 2001 itself. That's it. But today, I say Akash course is 7.5 to 8.73. I'm able with the open eyes, I can produce 8 hertz throughout the brain. You can see, now you can see the amplitude is much better, frequency is 8, and through the brain you can see only single line of 8 hertz. That makes my work much more genuine, and that is now, we never had any record. Now that we have a record, I'm sure if everybody is enlightened with all the 64 arts, is fully conscious, fully vegetarian, not drinking anything, not smoking anything, they will be able to produce this and become a super intelligent walking talking encyclopedia. That's it. And this is a picture with closed eyes. It is 8.5. I can with open eyes 8, but both are within same number. That is what. Now, seventh misconception, which I am going to talk about it. It is believed that we cannot see our human aura by itself, and any mention is considered as a psychosomatic disorder. And as a result, the patients are given management to reduce their sensitivity by and large. But I am of the clear, genuine genius minds are always made as a vegetable, not intelligent anymore, with the drugs. And that's the pathology state of diagnosis and treatment. And I'm going to show you, I can see my RO anytime, because that is because ectoderm, eyes and skin are developed from ectoderm along with the nervous system. That's it. I'm going to show you a picture. Now you see the picture. In 1992, during one of the course on yoga through meditation and a conductive Kundalini meditation of the light, seeing in Muladhara, then seeing in Swadhisthana, seeing in Nabhi Chakra, seeing Anahata Chakra, I had no exposure at all. But very moment going to the Vishuddhi Chakra, I started seeing myself in the bag of white light. And when I told this to the teacher, when I came to this stage, I had a jerk and I could see the entire thing that I'm in a white bag of light. We started from zero inside and expanded. That was my first experience as a shunya within my body. But he said, don't tell others, you'll be considered mad and people will treat you and you will become more or less like a vegetable. And I was surprised, a genuine experience without any difficulty. I have no problem at all. But anyway, that is very unfortunate part. Now I'm going to explain why this is possible, because the trigeminal layers which are produced over a period, ectoderm produces skin, eyes and things by and large. As a result, ectoderm can see the skin, nerves, eyes, everything as such. It's possible because the origin is from ectoderm itself. That's it. Now the skin has got different components which I have explained, and can all the sensory components of different nature are there in the skin itself. Once you have a perfect skin without any blocks and you are not taking alcohol, you are not taking drugs, you are not stopping it and keeping it as clean as possible with the bath at least once a day, keeping it completely free, you will remain very sensitive to the whole nervous system. That's what I said in the beginning. Your skin and receptors of every nature should be perfectly integrated. They should not be put under any deficiency at all. Now there comes to the question of spinal cord when the sensory information goes in. It's very interesting. There are 10 rex laminae in the spinal cord. Posterior is sensory, then interneural and motor. All put together are 10 only. See again, 10 stage of development is seen here again as a 10 only. And I'm only talking about what neuroscientists talk. I'm not giving something my imagination. It is not a mystery. explaining things in a better way in the light of Divyank is better to understand nervous system fully. Now I'm going to show you another concept very clearly. You can see the picture on the right side, which is central axial system. Now, Tantra Vidya talks of the 7 chakras: Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, then Anhata, Vishuddhi, Ajna, and Sasra. These 7 are connected with this part of the bone which you can see on the right side. Now, coccyx, you have 4 bones, you have seen it down. You have the cervical, the sacral, which has got 5 bones, 10 nerves. Then lumbar, 5 bones. Then you have thorax, 12 bones, with a thoracic, 24 are 12 chakras. Then cervical, you have 16 petals, and put together there are 8 bones. One is hired plus 7. These are the 5 door part of the chakras: Muladhara, Swadhisthana, Nabhi, Anhata, and Vishuddhi. But when it comes to the head level, it's divided into 2 components: Ajna and Sahasrara. Ajna is the face bones of the 14 bones, and Sahasrara is the 8 bones. These are 22 bones are the 2 components, which makes the 7 components. That's it. But when it comes to the left side picture, you have 10 chakras within that. And that is the difference between old Tantra Vidya and new Tantra Vidya of Akhand Sutra, which has 10.34419, which is with the spinal cord and the brain as such, internalized when Kundalini goes into the ventricles of the brain and is in the nervous system. This is outside, that is inside. That's the reason 7 chakras outside, you cannot feel inside you. Antar Yoga is more important from Ashtang Yoga to become to Dasang Yoga of Akhand Vidya. That is most important, something which for the science of people to understand difference old Tantra Vidya of 7 chakras to the new Tantra Vidya of 10.344 chakras is very clear in this particular picture. Now comes the ascending tract again. They are the one which start in the sensory component and ascend touch to go up. And these are the fibers move on to opposite side in medulla oblongata and then go to thalamus and go to the parietal cortex by and large. Here, movement from the right side will move to the left side in the brain medulla oblongata only, not below that. That is something which I am talking about. Second thing is you have ascending tracts vibration. That process is exactly the same thing what I have shown in touch. As such, leave it at that. That whole thing, fibers in medulla oblongata, you can see in the picture very, very clearly. But when come to the question of pain and temperature, these ascending tracts, by and large, you may move on to the opposite side and the spinal cord vertebrate itself. Now the question is why? Because pain and temperature can be very damaging, can defect the world by and large. That problem should not come. So you go to the opposite side, opposite muscles come to the place as you can see in the picture. As a result, we can withdraw ourselves from all the source which is producing pain and temperature. How beautiful is the nervous system. And this could be more damaging. Immediate action should be taken at the leg itself, or hands itself, not go to the brain part at all. Have we ever even dreamt of explaining things like that? That is a beautiful part. Now the question of ascending tract as such, I've shown both the things as such. You can see the left side, a dorsal root ganglion and spinothalamic on the other side. You can see one moving up the same side, another going to the opposite side and moving up. That's it. Now comes then another important part which I'm going to show. Right up to bone, spinal, that lower part of the coccyx, right up to soul, are represented inside the body, not outside the brain. And that is what I said. That's why I call earth elements are from tailbone to the soul as a patal lok to atal lok level of seven things. But they are inside, not outside. These are the not which are in tune with universal consciousness. They are well within our system. We have to take care of them by ourselves. So taking care of the legs by and large is very important to be healthy, wealthy, because the nervous system is much longer in the legs part. That's it. But it is protected inside, not outside. It's not liable to the damage from the external world. It is only to be protected inside fully so that they can remain intact. Does neuroscientists talk about it? No. But this picture shows how important it is. Now comes to the three centers of motor cortex are very, very important. Sensory component is carried right up to the motor sensory. But the motor component have three components. One is the basal ganglion, which are important in programming and planning. The first step is done by basal ganglion. It should not be called ganglion as it's a neuron cells, not a ganglion. That's also something. Then information from motor cortex comes. And as a result, sensory will be 30.81 because important for sensory to take motor action. It is not motor alone, but that has got this component. Then descending tract come, and then also the information for cerebellum, which motor coordination plays very important part. So these components, basal ganglion, primary motor, cerebellum, all the three put together lead to the formation of descending tract to make sure we have a coordinated perfect movement. And I again trying to say no alcohol, no drugs, no tranquilizers, no painkillers, nothing which can reduce the sensory component or motor content should ever be taken if you want to be healthy, wealthy, wise and happy. Please take care of your health with a perfect vegetarian food with Divyank in mind. You'll have no problem at all. You'll prevent problems. You can even reverse aging. I am nearing 73 plus, shortly going to be 74. But all my biophysical parameters are as good as when 21. And it's done only with the food, which is pure vegetarian, limited 61%, complex carbohydrate, 25-26% good quality protein, and then lipids, no fats, has given me improvement in biophysical parameters in the last 30 years. That is the beauty of Ayurveda. Now come to the question of descending tract. As I told you, start from that and comes down. And these are again 10 stages which you can see later. That how they start from the brain and come to down to anterior and thing to produce descending motor system by and large. We have talked about sensory, we have talked about interneuron, we have talked about motor as such. And this is how the fibers come. Lateral corner is 80% and central are 20%. And you can see that later in other videos, or we will take elaborate as we move in much more detailed information as such. But then these are the presentation. The sensory component is three components and motor is only two. This is again according to Divyank only. Now I am going to talk about upper motor neurons, which are the tracts from brain right up to anterior motor. And information in this would affect the body on the opposite side. But there is a lower motor neuron. We start from anterior pituitary. Once they are damaged, you will have a poliomyelitis case you can see in the right side. And hemiparesis or paralysis, like my father had, is what you're seeing in the left side, which is centralized upper motor, and this is lower motor disease. We will talk about it detail at a later date. Then as the integrated autonomic nervous system, I have already spoken, is the most important part of system to make sure we have absolutely no problem in comprehending any of the unconscious, subconscious and conscious and superconscious thing is done by integrated autonomic nervous system alone. Now, as I told you, the ganglion deformed in that, and the neurons which are formed in the process, the migrated are the ganglions of the autonomic nervous system. That is what I'm going to show about it. These are the steps which are the neuron which are shifted out becomes ganglion. That's it. Now comes to the cranial parasympathetic system, sympathetic and sacral parasympathetic. The first thing is cranial parasympathetic, which is the brain part. Now I tell you there are 12 pairs of nerves, 1 to 12. Out of this, 4 are the ones which are cranial parasympathetic. But before that, there is a central autonomic nervous system which is important. There is an interconnection of sensory and motor component and autonomy throughout the brain. They are interconnected. And the most important part is the 3 outer layers give us a super consciousness. Then you have a frontal layer, you have a motor layer, you have all the things, brain as such work together, and I call that insular autonomic center, a central autonomic nervous system. Once that is understood, our intuitive power would increase multifolds. That's it. Now, second part which is very important is hypothalamus, which are the centers for autonomic ganglion, sympathetic, parasympathetic, and at the same time endocrine glands. That's it. But here I'm going to make it very clear. The posterior part is close to the sympathetic system and anterior part is close to the cranial parasympathetic system. Because posterior is close to the fibers going to thalamus, they are faster. So sympathetic system is closer to the posterior part, close to the fibers which go up to thalamus, which are sensory component. Where the motor is slow, sacral parasympathetic, cranial parasympathetic, by and large is much slower than the sympathetic by and large. So it is placed outside, in front, not backside. All the nuclei in the front would reduce heart rate, aspiration like a parasympathetic. Rest, digest and conserve energy by cranial parasympathetic, supposed to be anterior. But posterior sympathetic mobilized energy is close to the sending fiber by and large. That's the beauty of this hypothalamus, which I want every child to understand, every student to understand, every researcher to understand, every writer to understand. We should give this kind of information. Now, in this picture, you can see the posterior part and anterior part by and large. Posterior part, you can see all are sympathetic stimulation only. Anterior is only parasympathetic stimulation. You can see it leisurely. This picture is beautiful. Now, there are 12 pairs of nerves, out of which 4 are important cranial parasympathetic. First is the third cranial nerve, which is oculomotor nerve, which is responsible for eyes as well as just say salivary glands. Then center is the facial nerve, that was in midbrain. This is pons, which is a facial seventh nerve comes up, which is important for lacrimal glands as well as salivary gland secretion by and large. And of course, the mucous membrane of nose also is related with that. That is the functions of pons, facial brain, oculomotor with vision, accommodation. This is with secretions, both lacrimal as well as nasal as well as salivary. Then medulla oblongata has 2 other nerves, glossopharyngeal and vagus. Glossopharyngeal is the post part and is related with the parotid glands. At the same time, mucous membrane of the mouth, pharynx and larynx. And these are also sensitive part of the posterior part of the tongue is by glossopharyngeal. Anterior part of the tongue is by facial nerve. That is also something with Divyank is phenomenal. But vagus is a long nerve which takes control of all the cranial parasympathetic functions of thorax as well as abdomen, internal organ by and large. So these 4 things will really make you perfectly healthy. Rest, digest, conserve energy to make you in a calm and quiet state. That's it. Now the comes to the oculomotor nerve, cranial nerve third is the accommodation. The picture you are seeing right on top of this is exactly the picture which I have used in the beginning. This is how to see up, to go up. So the focus on that is to see oculomotor nerve, accommodation reflex, and go higher. This you can read leisurely at other side, but this is the prime objective from cranial parasympathetic. But when it comes to the sympathetic system, it arises from superior ganglion of the sympathetic system, which will open. Oculomotor will close it, and sympathetic will open it. That is something you can see visually as such. Now facial nerve, as I told you, the tongue, anterior first part is the facial nerve and posterior is glossopharyngeal. Anterior is for sweet and nice taste, posterior for bitter to vomit it off. And that also mindtic nervous system is connected with that. I think I've seen. This picture we understand. Next we can go to stat, read it when you first listen. Next time you read it and understand it much better. Go to the next step of understanding this. Now comes the sympathetic system is reduction. When sympathetic system comes and parasympathetic increases secretion, this will reduce. Then both association with smell and taste is also simultaneously, and as a result you take a coffee, taste it better when cranial parasympathetic system is fully intact. Otherwise there is going to be a difficulty, and you can leisurely it at otherwise. Now the conducting system also the same thing. They all together along with sympathetic will increase the heart rate. Parasympathetic will reduce the heart rate. And that is what I am talking about, conducting heart system. Similarly, question of sympathetic will increase it, parasympathetic will reduce it. Now an autonomic nervous system is the same thing which I told you in the beginning, is a connected with the sacral parasympathetic. At the same time, autonomic nervous system from the center independent also is there as a pacemaker. You can see the white dot at head of the uterus itself. Now the sacral parasympathetic, as I told you, there are three centers, sacrum 2, 3 and 4, from which three nerves come, but they supply 5 organs, and that is again Divyank alone. And that is what is important for reproductive system as well expulsion of the waste product by and large. I think that is most important part of this particular system. All these fibers start from lateral horn cells only, not from anterior or posterior as such. And that is what I'm trying to show. There are 7 big misconceptions in neuroscience which I've tried to show with the evidence which is available, which people have not done till that. And after that, I think we have come to the stage at the end of the show and then take it. But today on this, I'm going to talk little about in this particular preset, because right at the picture you can see 3 white lights in the middle, gray and white. These are the trinity which I am talking about. Then you can see Ida, Pingala and Sushmana Nadi. You can see the 10 chakra. You can see the mind. You can see the consciousness. All that is there. And all these centers when put together can understand the nervous system much better. To understand nervous system, what I have tried to explain, I think if every child in the world understands, which I have shown, that neuroscientists of the world have given hodgepodge kidney issue, but not detailed impeccable wisdom. And unless until we have detailed impeccable wisdom for every child, free of love, for universal, only then we can expect a society in the world which is healthy, wealthy, wise and happy. And from that angle, I think this particular video and its sportive thing with earlier videos or coming videos would take you to the level that you will never fall sick all your life. You will be in tune with the perfect Satchit Anand and you will enjoy. The need for money will come down. Need for entertainment will come down. You will, from home, you will be able to do a wonderful work for yourself, your family, children, generations to come together, and that would be the day of enlightenment in the entire world, and that is the day I'm looking forward to. Now, from that angle, I think it's enough for the time being. Thank you very, very much.